This is Joe Wong. Welcome to the Trap Set. During the age of social distancing, we're recording remotely and releasing episodes every day.
Oh, the rich people want what the poor people got, and the poor people want what the rich people got, and the skinny people want what the fat people got, and the fat people want what the skinny people got. You can never get anybody in this world.
Today's guest is Dot Wiggin, vocalist, guitarist, and songwriter of the Shaggs, a band she co-founded in 1968 with her sisters Betty and Helen. The band's 1969 album, Philosophy of the World, is an astoundingly unique, life-affirming masterpiece that has influenced countless artists including Kurt Cobain, Bonnie Raitt, Frank Zappa, and Deerhoof. Dot spoke to me from her home in New Hampshire.
Oh, the boys with cars want motorcycles, and the boys with motorcycles want cars. You can never be anybody in this world. It doesn't matter what you do.
Hi Dot, how are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Good. How's life during social distancing?
Well, we're all well, but it's very different, that's for sure.
Yeah, how are you spending your time?
Well, I'm still working. I work at a school, and I work 2 hours every other day just to prepare the kids' lunch that anybody that needs it for lunch and breakfast. So that takes up part of the day. And then I'm pretty much staying home except for when I need groceries or medicine, or that's about it.
So,
Yeah.
The kids are still able to come in and get breakfast
No, they
and lunch?
can't come in. We have somebody that the parent drives up and gets out of the car and picks up the bags.
Oh, wow. Okay, cool. How long have
Yeah.
you been working there?
I've been working at the school for probably 4 years.
Let's go back to the beginning, to when you were a school kid. What are some of your earliest memories?
Okay, sorry, my son was asking me who I was talking to.
Oh.
Now, say that again.
What are some of your earliest memories?
Earliest memories? Probably going to elementary school in Fremont. And let me see.
What was Fremont like when you were growing up?
Very small town, quiet, not a whole lot going on. Pretty peaceful, actually. A lot different than the way the world is today.
What kind of music was on in your house when you were growing up?
Well, we all had our own thing. Mine was basically mostly Herman Hermits, and then the British invasion, like the Beatles, Dave Clark 5. One of us listened to Ricky Nelson, and Betty liked, what's his name? Andy Williams.
Oh, yeah.
Not just him, but him too. The Monkees. Basically, we had a radio, so we listened to, so.
I had always heard that your parents had a premonition that you were going to start the band. Is that true?
My father's mother, or my grandmother, yes, she did have a premonition. She used to read palms, and she read my father's palm when he was probably a teenager, 16, 17, I guess. Told him he was going to marry a strawberry blonde and have 3 girls, and they were going to be in a music band.
Wow. What business was your dad in? Was he involved in music before that?
No, he was a laborer. He worked at a Exeter cotton mill fabrics, machine shop like.
And did your mom work outside the house too?
No, not while we were. There was seven of us in all. So she was a at-home mom, and she never went to work until we were all pretty much most of us out of high school.
So when you started the band, was it something that you had thought about before, your dad came to you to fulfill the prophecy?
No. Nope, never entered my mind.
So when you started playing, how did it feel?
When we started playing as a group?
Yeah. Did it bring you joy to play guitar before you started playing as a group, or was it something that felt special to you when you first were introduced to it?
Not really special. Let me think. It was my dad's idea. It was his dream. He got us the guitars, got us the lessons and the voice lessons. The thing I think I enjoyed the most was writing the lyrics to the songs.
Do you remember the first one you wrote?
I believe it was My Pal Foot Foot.
My pal's name is Foot Foot. I never find him home. I go to his house, knock at his door. People come out and say, Foot Foot, don't live here no more. My pal Foot Foot always likes.
He was our cat, my cat. And I had named him Foot Foot from a joke that Mal Tillis had, which I didn't know where the joke came from. I just remembered hearing it, and I liked it. So then we got the cat, so I named the cat Foot Foot. But unfortunately, my cat didn't have the happy ending that the song did, but I made it a happy ending. He disappeared and never came back.
Wow.
Yeah.
So once you started getting into the swing of writing songs, how did you feel about the music that you were making?
At the time, didn't really think too much about it. The way I write lyrics, if I were to write them today, I'd still do the same thing. When I write lyrics, I write them as I have the tune already in my head. And a lot of people in the music world say that's different than most people do it. But that's just the way I did it. So if I look back on it now, I don't think I had enough knowledge to be writing music. If I did it over again, I would rather write poems. Forget about the music part. But that's just the way I feel.
When you hear the music now, are you proud of it?
Some of it. Some of them, a couple of them I don't like at all, and would rather, well, I don't really listen to it. My adult son listens to a lot of it. He has some on his favorite on CDs in his vehicle. But proud of some of it. I'm proud of where it went for what it was. Didn't realize we had such a following until 1999 when we went to NRBQ's 30th anniversary show. And a lot of his fans were there to see us too, so yeah. And they were from Japan and UK and California, and that was pretty awesome.
So kind of going back to the idea that your dad was it was his idea and he was the manager.
Mhm.
Did it feel at some point like you had control of the band, like it became your vision creatively, or did it feel like kind of like a chore to be doing it?
More like a chore, probably. It was our dad's dream, so he was in charge. Yeah.
Was he kind of envisioning something like the Jackson 5, where you would become big superstars in the pop world?
No, I think he was visioning more like being as popular as the Beatles,
Wow.
because it was at that time that we were. His dream was for us to be on Ed Sullivan's show.
Did you play on any television shows back then?
No. No, the most we did was we played at the Fremont Town Hall, and they had dances for the kids every Saturday. We probably did that for about 3 years. There really wasn't anything else going on, and it was all ages. It wasn't just teenagers. It was like, I don't know, probably 10 years old to whatever.
So you would play at the Fremont Town Hall every Saturday for 3 years?
Yep, pretty much.
And was it fun, or did it again feel like a chore?
It was fun, but it was kind of both. It was a chore. It was fun to watch the kids have fun and to dance around and have a good time and something for them to do. So that part was fun.
How many kids would come out?
We used to have a book and we used to have to sign in, but we never kept it. When my mom sold the house and had to move, a lot of stuff we didn't keep it because we didn't realize what it was going to be 40 years later or more. But I kind of wish we had kept it now, but hindsight's 2020. So.
Would you play all original material, or would you do the covers as well for those
We did
shows?
covers too. We did both. Yep.
And some of those covers came out on a record later on. Like I know you did songs like "Paper Roses."
Yep, we did.
But what were some of the songs that you wanted to play when you were playing those shows?
We basically picked the covers. We did a couple of Herman Hermits. I think we did "Don't Go Out Into the Rain." What else did we do? We did Tom T. Hall's "I Love," and like you said, "Paper Roses."
Oh, I've heard this. I've heard the cover you've done of "I Love."
Uh-huh.
That's great.
Thank you. Yeah, I still listen to that once in a while. Not mine, but Tom T. Hall's. I find it on YouTube.
Did you have a feeling that you would be as big as the Beatles back then?
No. No, I didn't. That was just our dad's dream.
What was your dream?
I didn't know. I didn't even think it would be as popular and as many fans or care. Just lost my train of thought. It comes with age. Followers there. I wouldn't have thought we'd have as many followers as we do today.
Why not?
Well, at the time we thought it was that was then and this is now, and after the band broke up we figured that was part of our life and that part of our life was over. So we never thought too much about it.
Well, you said the band was your dad's dream. Did you have a dream at the time?
Not really. I don't think so. At one time I wanted to go into service. I thought I wanted to go into service. And another time I wanted to be a nun, and I'm not even Catholic, so I guess that wouldn't have worked out.
What about being a nun was appealing to you?
I've always been very religious and close to Jesus, so I didn't realize then that you had to be Catholic to become a nun. And, I could have pursued, other things on that online, a minister or whatever. But at the time, it was all about the music, so.
Did you guys go to church as kids?
We didn't go to church on a regular basis, but we went to Sunday school. my parents were the ones that would go to church on Easter and Christmas.
But you felt particularly or you felt particularly spiritual as a kid?
Yes.
And so then so tell me about, like, why did the band break up?
Biggest reason is Dad passed away.
And so afterwards, after he passed away, you didn't feel like doing it anymore?
We did it for a little bit. We practiced anyway, and I don't think we played. We might have played we didn't do the town hall dances, but we might have played at a couple of private. We played at a nursing home for a Halloween party for the patients.
It's Halloween, it's Halloween, it's time for scares, it's time for screams. It's Halloween, it's Halloween. The ghost will spook, the spooks will scare. Why, even Dracula will be there.
And I think we played at a private birthday party for a woman in Epping, actually, who lived in Fremont at the time. But then we all got full-time jobs and started a new life, so we just kind of disbanded.
Did you think of yourself as a musician after that?
Not then, I don't think.
But now you do?
Yeah, except for I don't do much with it right now, but...
Do you ever play guitar or write songs just for fun?
I have some songs started. I've never gotten back to finish them. I did write a couple when we did the Dot Wiggin. Well, when I did the Dot Wiggin band, I wrote a couple new ones for that, and I've got some started, but just jotting down stuff to eventually, hopefully, finish it. I don't know if it's a song or a poem, but probably more like a poem.
What do you remember about recording Philosophy of the World?
Not a whole lot. I don't remember going the second time, but I guess we did. I only remember going once.
So there were 2 sessions?
Yeah. So I'm told. But I know we did also recorded different than most people do. We had we listened to ourselves with headphones on and then sang and played with it, is what I remember.
When you were working together as a band, did you ever talk about how you wanted the parts to fit together? I mean, you guys have such an interesting way of playing together. Is it something that you would talk about or work on, or is it something that came naturally?
I wrote the lyrics, I wrote the melody, and I wrote most of the chords. And like I said, as I wrote the lyrics, I already had the tune in my head, so I pretty much wrote everything, I guess.
What about the beats, though, and how they fit in with everything?
You mean the beat, like the drummer?
The drum beats, yeah.
Well, Helen was on her own because I knew nothing about drums, and she did her own thing.
Okay, got it.
I think it said that she beats to her own drum or something like that.
Yeah, I mean, it definitely has a very unique style. I'm a drummer, by the way.
Oh,
yeah.
Cool. So you probably understand what I'm saying then.
Well, I mean, I've never heard anything like it before. I mean, the way that the melodies and the rhythms fit together are really unique to that band.
Okay.
I was just wondering if that was something that you would rehearse and work out as a band, or if
oh yeah, we rehearsed pretty much every night after my father got home from work.
Oh, I see. So how would that go? Would he would conduct the rehearsals, or you were on your own for that?
Oh no, he'd sit and listen. If he didn't like it, we'd do it over and over and over until we did.
Man, that must have been kind of stressful.
Yeah, it was stressful at times.
Did you resent him for that?
I don't think I resented him. I think Betty resented him. Betty resented not having the choice if we didn't want to do it, not to do it.
Mm-hmm.
I can't say I resented him. I knew he was doing it for us and doing the best he could, I guess. But he never took lessons and never did anything with music. He did play a juice harp. That's about it.
So when you were making the album, was it exciting to you, or did it, again, feel just kind of like compulsory?
I felt like we weren't ready to make an album or to record. So
when you heard it played back, did you feel proud of it at the time?
no, we didn't like it.
How come?
Probably mostly because we didn't feel like we knew enough about the songs themselves. I don't even feel like I knew enough for writing music. Writing lyrics, yes, but not writing music. But I mean, we took lessons. I wasn't taught how to write music. I was just taught how to read music and how to, play.
Well, I feel like lots of people that have been on this show have a similar experience where they weren't necessarily taught how to write music, and sometimes that makes for the most interesting results, and it helps people kind of find their own distinctive style.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so your father passed away, and then you played a couple more times, and then the band basically broke up. And then
Yep.
You said that you kind of didn't realize how much of a following you had until the late 90s. I know in the 80s, NRBQ found the record and got it re-released by Rounder.
Right. Yes, Terry Adams had found my phone number and called me and said what they wanted to do, and him and his drummer Tom came to New Hampshire and met up with us. I think we met up at a restaurant in next town over in Raymond and discussed everything. And actually, it was just me, my mom, and my husband that went and discussed everything. And then they were going to be playing in later on in Nashua, which is probably about an hour away. So we went to see them and listen to them play. But we'd already pretty much negotiated and starting to get stuff together to do the album.
Were you aware that folks like Frank Zappa or Bonnie Raitt were huge fans of your work at that point?
No, not at all.
Did it mean anything to you when you heard that?
Actually, we read a lot on the internet, and as far as I knew the one that you just said, because she's also an NRBQ fan, so I knew that was true because Terry had told us. But we didn't really believe what we had heard about Frank Zappa. We figured it, and even on read on the internet, they said it was probably either a lie or something made up. But as it turns out,
He said that you were more important to him than the Beatles.
yeah, and one of his favorite bands and listened to us religiously is what I read. So anyway,
But why didn't you believe that?
because you read all the stuff on the internet, and we just didn't think that somebody as big as him would be that interested, I guess. However, I did have a chance just before, actually it was already started, as this virus started, I did have a chance to go and see his son, Diesel Zapper, in a show in Gary, I think. It was like a half hour away, but because of the virus thing, we decided not to go, not to be in a whole group of people. But I did, a friend that actually he used to be in the Dot Wiggin band, and he went because he was playing with him, so I had him. I said, could you do me a favor and ask Diesel if it's true about what they said about his dad, Frank Zappa? And I talked to Adam later on, and he said, yes, it was true.
Wow. I believe
So
it.
that was kind of neat. Yeah.
Well, I've talked to lots of musicians from lots of different backgrounds, and anybody who knows who the Shaggs are loves the Shaggs. You're humble, but I feel like for me and many others, the band has made a huge impact, especially musicians.
Uh-huh. Well, that's good.
So after those last couple shows, what was your next step?
I got a full-time job and started dating, and later on got married and had 2 sons, and between working and family, and it pretty much that was life.
What were you working? Where were you working?
I worked at a nursing home in the kitchen doing. I started with pots and pans, and then did basically everybody's fill-in. I'd work in the dish room. I'd work on the food line. I'd be the cook's, the chef's helper, and the baker's helper. And then later on, I transferred and did housekeeping in the same nursing home. And I did that for like 13 years.
Did you like working with elderly people?
When I didn't see the elderly people for the first 6.5 years because I worked in the kitchen and downstairs. Then in housekeeping, then I cleaned the patient's room. So yes, I did. I enjoyed talking to them, and so yeah, I'd say I enjoyed that.
My dad lived in a nursing home before he passed away last year, and
Oh.
I always felt like they were so sad. There's so many people there that are lonely.
That is true. It is sad because after lunch, they'd put them all in this big auditorium, and a lot of them were in wheelchairs or recliner chairs, and they'd set them there, and a lot of them hardly ever had any company, or if they did, most of the company was on weekends.
Yeah.
So yeah, it is very sad.
I don't want to end up in one of those places.
No, me neither.
So when you had your own kids, did you have a dream for them in the way your dad had a dream for you and your sisters?
Not really. My younger son did take voice lessons for a while, and he took piano lessons. But the teacher, the young girl that was teaching him both, moved away, went to college and moved away, and then he kind of dropped it. He still likes singing and listening to music and everything. And then he also was thinking at one time to be a minister, but that didn't pan out either. So, but yeah, my other son has some academic problems, so just keeping him safe and happy was my goal for him. So far, we've done pretty well.
And you didn't decide to, make them do a certain activity and rehearse every day after school or anything like that?
No, as long as they did their homework and tried to get him interested in sports, but neither one of them were really interested in sports. So,
are you an athletic person?
No, not really. That's probably where they got it from. They did do not softball. They did baseball in like the first and second grade. My husband was a coach, so actually he probably would be the one that he was a coach. So they didn't have 100% say whether they played or not.
I want to kind of come back to your songwriting process. You mentioned that you usually will have a melody in mind first, and then you write the lyrics to whatever melody you have.
As I wrote the lyrics, I already had the melody in line. Yes, the lyrics just came to me, and as I wrote them, the melody was just there. I really don't understand it. So,
like it was coming from somewhere else.
Right.
Lots of songwriters I've spoken to have expressed a similar phenomenon. It's almost like the music comes through them, not from them.
Yeah, that explains it. He's My Cutie. That was written about my nephew, who was probably 3 or 4 years old at the time, and we didn't live next door, but we lived close. And he's probably just going through a thing at that certain age, but he wouldn't let me, pick him up or hug him, or so it started out as that, and then as I get the idea, and then it just turns into a song. But the only part of that was true was he wouldn't let me pick him up and hug him, or he'd run from me if I go to get him.
Have you played the song to him as an adult?
He lives in Arizona, so I don't know if I know his sisters listen to the music. I'm not sure if he does or not. Or if he even knows. He probably doesn't even know that song was written or was inspired by him.
What about the little sports car?
I always wanted a Corvette, so it's probably where that came from. Never had one. We did have a Mustang for a while. And Ken seemed to have a lead foot, so I guess I just like to drive fast. And I don't know where the whole thing... Like I said, the words just come to me. I don't really have any idea. Somebody asked me what Love at First Sight came from, or who it was about, and I said, I really don't know. There wasn't anybody special. Well, if there was, I don't remember, put it that way. There might have been at the time, but...
I turned around and headed for home. I learned my lesson never to roam. I learned my lesson never to roam. Never to roam, never to roam, never to roam, never to roam.
Were you allowed to date when you were doing the band, or was that kind of like your singular focus at the time?
No, singular focus. No, we weren't. We weren't even allowed to go to concerts. For one thing, we probably couldn't afford it and didn't have the money. But so no, I'd have to say no to that.
What did it feel like when you got back together in the late 90s, early 2000s?
Kind of weird, I guess. To be honest with you, I think I enjoyed being in the Dot Wiggin band better than when we performed as the Shaggs afterwards, like Betty and I.
What about performing as the Shaggs didn't feel right to you?
Perform at the dances and stuff, you mean?
No, well, you said that you liked being in the Dot Wiggin band rather than the reformed
Right.
version of the Shaggs.
Probably because I knew more about the music then, knew more about what was going on, and I was a lot older too, of course. It probably has something to do with it.
Yeah, it's interesting to me because, I was in bands when I was 14, 15, 16. And I'm almost 40 now. If I were to try to go back and relearn those songs that I wrote when I was a kid, it would almost be like trying to, wear my clothing from back then. It might not fit as well.
Right. All right. Yeah, we had trouble remembering how to play. I mean, luckily, I still had all the sheet music, so some of the chords I wrote while we were taking lessons and everything, and they were, in fact, a couple of them we even changed the chords to make them easier to play.
And Helen didn't join you for that reunion?
No, she was dealing with health problems at that time. So she didn't, she wasn't, she decided to not get involved.
Tell me about the decision to form the Dot Wiggin band. How did that come about?
A fan from New York, Jesse Krakow, had called me, and they were doing, I guess he did a fundraiser every year, so they decided to do a fundraiser for the town of Fremont. Because he was a fan of the Shaggs, and picked his members to be with it, and invited us to the show, and they played all the Shaggs songs. So me, Betty, and Rachel went to the show, and we didn't perform or anything, but we just sat in the audience. And then they had us come up on the stage and ask us some questions afterwards.
How did it feel to see your music played by other people?
That's pretty awesome. Need a final note? No. Yeah, it was pretty awesome.
How did it feel to write songs again?
I wrote the songs, and it was really interesting because I wrote the songs, and I wrote the lyrics. I'd give the lyrics to Jesse, and he wrote the music without me even telling him anything about, how the melody went and everything. And he came up pretty darn close the way that I would have written the music if I did it. The only other thing I would say, he made some of them a little faster than I would have had them, but it was really a good connection.
She gets on her banana bike and pedals all around. She gets on her banana bike and travels through the town. There's just no stopping her, this is for sure. She gets on her banana bike and pedals more and more. She meets up with her friends and goes and goes and goes. Where's her destination? Sometimes no one knows. She disappears for days on end. Is she by herself or is she with some friend? Banana bike, banana bike.
Do you have plans to move forward with the Dot Wiggin Band?
No, we've kind of all moved on. I think it was probably 2, maybe 3 years ago, we played at Mass Mocha in Adams, Mass. And I actually got Betty to go with us, so Jesse thought it was supposed to be just a kind of a last reunion thing, and he thought that if she went once that she'd really like it, and then he could get her and me to continue doing it. But I did an interview with one of the DJs afterwards, and Jesse sat right there on the couch, right next to me. And he asked me what my plans were, and I said, well, I'm really don't have any plans as far as music goes right now. I'm taking a break. I says, because I have a rescue dog that had diabetes, and he was blind, and I couldn't bring him with me, so I always had to find a place for him or pay to have him stay at the vet's or something. So, and he was getting worse instead of better, so I decided I was taking a break to take care of my rescue dog. And we'd had another one at the time, too. So, sat right there. Jesse heard the whole thing, and no more than got back home a couple of days later, and he called and set up a gig in, I think it was Pennsylvania, and I told him that I wasn't interested, and I said, if I did a trip that I did not have to spend the night, like close, like somewhere in New Hampshire or Mass or even close, Maine, but just over the border, I'd be willing to do it. But as far as spending the night or flying, it was out of the question because I needed to be home with my dog. So he didn't like that answer, and he kept calling and calling and calling and trying to change my mind. So I just stopped answering the phone.
Persistent.
Well, actually, I haven't talked to him since. I think he's mad at me, but, I can't help it. I told how I felt and what I wanted to do, and that was it.
Do you still have lots of rescue dogs?
I have one. The one that the one that was diabetes and blind passed away. Actually, if I'd have gone on that show to Pennsylvania, I probably would have been there when he died. So, but I was home with him. I had to have him put down because he was in a lot of pain. He had other problems accumulating too. So, and now I have one that's also blind. They were pugs, and she's a pug. She's going to be 12 in September, so she's getting up there in age. But she does good for being blind. She's not diabetic, so that helps. We had cats and dogs growing up, and then when I first got married, when the boys were young, we had one cat, and it got hit by a car and died, so it kind of took care of the cats. We stuck to dogs. Always had a dog, at least one dog for a pet. We also the boys had rabbits for a while, and they had hamsters. But it's dogs that we all seem to love. And growing up at home, I also had horses. So.
Yeah, so you sing about your horse in the song My Companion.
My companion is with me wherever I go, it goes to. My companion is with me no matter what I do. When I ride my horse, I take my companion too, of course. When I go to the beach and run in the sand, I have my companion close at hand.
So that's where that verse came from, and I always listened to the radio and pretty much had it wherever I went. So that's where that song came from.
Have you ever had an opportunity to meet Peter or anybody from Herman's Hermits?
I go to his concerts anytime he's close enough for me to get there.
Is that still your favorite band?
Yes. Of course, he's the only original one now, but the other's good, so.
One band that's been on this show that has mostly all the original members from that time is the Zombies. Were you a fan of them?
I've heard of them. I may have listened to them a couple of times, but I don't think I was ever a fan.
It's interesting. There's so many people that still, for whatever reasons, need to get out on the road, and often it's just the one singer and younger people filling out the band.
Right.
Well, what do you care about the most right now?
What I care about the most? To have this virus thing be over with and get back to a semi-normal life. It'll probably be never the same as it was. Have everybody healthy and just have a more peaceful world with all these killings and bombs. And
I know it's really overwhelming.
it is. To have the world the way God planned it and created it.
Are there ways that you try to manifest that in your day-to-day life?
Well, I teach Sunday school when we have it. Right now, it's off the. There's no Sunday school because there's not even any school except for remotely. But I've taught Sunday school pretty much half of my life, and just the way I live. Like I work at the school, and we have 5 people working in the kitchen, and they all say
Is it the school
that,
where you went as a child?
No, I went to Ella School in Fremont, and I'm in Epping, so
Okay.
it's the next town over, but no. But all the girls at work say I'm the only one that's going to heaven. So I live my life.
Wait, what's wrong with the rest of them?
They like to have fun, I guess. Not that I don't like to have fun, but they fool around. They tell jokes, sometimes not that clean jokes. Then they go like to say they're sorry to me, or they might slip and use a swear word, and then they say, "Oh, sorry, Dot." I says, "Don't worry about it. Just because I don't say it, don't mean I don't hear it."
Do you have any jokes for the mix?
Do I have any jokes for the?
Do you add any jokes in the mix when you're working with them?
No, not usually. I usually I do the pots and pans and all the dishes and trays and everything, so I'm kind of off to the side. But my back is away from them most of the time, except for when we have a 15-minute lunch.
What do you enjoy about teaching Sunday school?
So, yeah, I mean, I mingle with them and laugh at some of their jokes, but...
Why does the world go on mowing? Why does everyone fight more and more? Don't they know we have a Savior? All we have to do is believe and pray. Why must we go on grieving? Why does anyone have to cry? Don't they know we have a Savior? Just look up toward the sky.
What do you enjoy most about teaching Sunday school?
Well, I love kids, so just being with the kids and helping them any way I can. Hopefully to steer them in the right direction.
Do you have a favorite Bible passage?
Well, Lord Shepherd is one of my favorite chapters.
Do you sing at church?
I do. I sing in the choir.
So what does it mean to you now, 50 years plus after starting the band, that people all over the world, including some really influential musicians, have been so inspired by this music that you made?
I think it's pretty amazing. It's awesome to have that kind of a following, and appreciate all the fans and sticking out with us so long, and yeah.
Are you still close with your sisters?
Yes, well, Helen passed away 14 years ago, I think. She died in her sleep. She had some health issues, but yeah, outside of that, we are.
Is there anything that you've always wanted to try, either musically or creatively, that you haven't yet?
You might need these. No, I can't really think of anything right off the top of my head.
You know, I'd heard over the years that there was going to be a movie about the Shaggs at one point, maybe 20 years ago. And then, wasn't there a Broadway play or an off-Broadway play about the Shaggs?
Yes, and actually, there's also rights out to have a movie made, and the rights are still there. They have to renew them every year, and that's been going on since 2000. So I don't know if anything, that would be my dream, to see the movie made. We did go see the play when it was in New York. They invited us as a guest. That was awesome. That was really weird to see the three girls perform, and then the actor and actress that played our mom and dad. That was really strange to sit in the audience and watch them portray our life, basically. So, but that was strange and awesome at the same time.
Yeah, how did it? How accurate was it?
Well, a lot of it wasn't true because they had to make it up to make it interesting. For instance, they had Helen having a boyfriend and sneaking out of the house to date him, and then they had Betty sneaking out of the house and dating or connecting with Helen's boyfriend, and I mean none of that would have even happened because Betty didn't even care for Helen's husband. So that was kind of strange, but and then they had him going in the service, coming back missing an arm, and he was never even in the service. What else? I'm trying to remember what else they did. They had Helen not speaking, or like the high school graduation or something, and they made it like she was quiet or mute or didn't talk. And she was shy and could be on the quiet side, but she certainly, she had an opinion. You certainly knew about it. She wasn't afraid to express herself or talk. So I don't know where they came up with that either, but just to make it interesting, I guess. But they did a good job.
If you were to cast the movie, who would play you?
They've had quite a few different ones, but by the time they get the funding or get things set up, then the one moved on. One of them was, I think the first one that was supposed to play me was Kirsten Dunst. I'm not sure if that's the right way to say her name. She played in Spider-Man.
Right. She was MJ in Spider-Man.
Yeah, and then by the time, well, they didn't really get the funding, but by the time they were thinking about it, of course, she got more popular and bigger in her acting, so they couldn't afford her. So the last I heard, and I can't remember the girls, if my son was in here, he would know, but I can't think of the actor's name right now. I'm not sure if that's even in the cards either. At one time, they were hoping to have Sean Penn to play my father.
Oh,
but
yeah.
That's not happening either. I don't even know if they have anybody planned for him yet.
So no plans to do music in the immediate future right now?
No.
Well, this has been great. Was there anything else that you wanted to discuss?
I'd give a message to all our fans, and that's to, with what's going on in the world right now, to try to keep their faith and stay safe and stay healthy. And thank them for all their love and support they've given us all these years.
Yeah, when I announced that we were going to have you on this show, I asked if anybody has questions, but what most people wanted to express is just their gratitude to you for all the great music.
Oh, well, good.
And I can remember hearing the Shaggs for the first time when I was about 16, and
Right.
it was the most fascinating music I'd ever heard, and I became obsessed with it, and it's the only album I listened to for months at a time. And anytime I hear it, I mean, especially on Halloween, I'll play It's Halloween when the trick-or-treaters are coming over. But anytime I hear it, it brings me joy, and I thank you for that.
Oh, good. I'm glad. It brought a lot of joy to everybody else's life, too. Halloween was one of my favorite holidays growing up. Actually, it's my son's favorite now, and he loves that song, so that was fun to write.
Do you still dress up for Halloween?
I don't know, and the boys don't now either. They decorate their house. I mean, my younger son decorates the house, and they start like the beginning of October. But no, I don't do much for Halloween anymore. I don't have any trick-or-treaters. We live on a busy road, so I used to like giving out the candy and seeing the kids, but that was the fun part.
Well, Dot Wiggin Semprini, thank you so much for being on the show, and thanks for a lifetime of incredible music.
Well, thank you, and thank you for being such a good fan, and all the other fans out there.
All right, stay safe, Dot.
All righty, you too.
Okay, thanks.
Bye-bye.
The Trap Set is produced by me, Joe Wong, along with Chris Karwowski, who also edits the program. Follow us on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook at The Trap Set, and visit our website, thetrapset.net, to subscribe to our show for free. If you enjoyed what you heard today, please donate to our show. If you can't afford to donate, please tell a friend and give us a good rating on iTunes. Send your feedback and guest requests to thetrapset@gmail.com.